All right, everybody, back again today with a video I'm really excited to share with you. This is AI for small business, what you should be doing right now. And this is a series of videos that I'm kicking off here in the summer of 2023. And just going to be trying to update these every couple months or so as things evolve so quickly. What I want to cover today is really just actionable steps that you can think about AI adoption and how to really get the most out of this technology right away, as well as some road mapping for where this is going in the very near future. And then further down the road, how roles are going to evolve potentially as this AI becomes more ubiquitous. Before we get into it, I want to mention that I have all of this in a cheat sheet format available in my Patreon here. If this is a better way for you to digest this information, this is available along with many dozens of others in my Patreon there. So that's an option, but let's jump right into this. What I want to cover here, the 3 steps are the adoption framework. This is the crawl, walk, run framework I'm going to go through. We're going to look at some of the new software systems that are just starting to roll out that are going to play a major role in the years to come. And then kind of look a little further down the road as far as where roles might stabilize in the future of basically the future of work. So right now, this is the framework that I think is the most helpful, the crawl, walk, run framework. Crawl being personal productivity, walk being team productivity, and run being this 360-degree transformation. So in the crawl phase, just thinking about how you're going to use ChatGPT or other AI tools in your day-to-day, start dabbling with it and just trying it out. It's the best way to start learning this stuff if you haven't already. If you're watching this video, you may have already been doing that, and you may have some background on prompt engineering, on image creation, and potentially even on how to do some text to code and how to use Google Colabs to create simple software scripts that can really be helpful. I'll get into a couple examples of these here in a second. The next phase, the walk, the team efficiency, would be rolling out any of those prompts, any of those things you're finding for your personal productivity to the team, and making sure that the team is sharing any prompts that they're using that other people may benefit from. So starting to ingrain it into your organization. Here's some ideas for personal productivity. Email example. I think this is the simplest one, and this has been very useful for me. It's at the end of the day, my brain might be spent, but I still have some communications to take care of. Just asking ChatGPT, hey, I have to write this email to a client about such and such. Can you draft it up? And oftentimes it'll create something very useful that I can just tweak and send off. The more information you give to the AI, the better that draft will be. But just getting started somewhere can be helpful. Code, learning to code, use this AI to create these simple scripts. I think this is a very powerful tool that a lot of folks are not talking about, is that you can use ChatGPT, especially in conjunction with Google Colab, to create customized code to take care of things that you need to do on a day-to-day basis. I have some examples of this, a whole video on my Google Colab Quick Start. Check that out as a way to get started with that text to code, as well as a prompt engineering video that goes over just some of the basics and then a few things that might be beyond the basics there for the crawl section. Now the walk section. Team productivity. So like I said earlier, begin sharing these prompts, building them into your process documents. A couple ideas here is image creation. So creating a reusable prompt, including details about your brand guidelines for all your slide deck images. You can see here, I have a prompt that I use with Midjourney that's this sort of a watercolor using a muted purple that I reuse for all of my slides. That can be a great way to share that with the team, make sure everybody's kind of using that to keep your brand intact there and speed up their ability to create any images for their slides. That's just one idea. Social media example, creating a reusable prompt, including detailed information about your audience to help you generate LinkedIn posts. That could be another one. And I do have a video all about ChatGPT for Instagram, so you might want to take a look at that as an idea for building out that process. I may be doing another video for LinkedIn as well. Now moving on to the next phase here. So that was, we kind of went through how to think about adopting it right now. But I think the next phase are that there's going to be these major tools that are kind of already here a little bit, but they're going to be playing a bigger and bigger role. I'm speaking about things like the Microsoft Copilot, and Google is rolling out their version of this, although it already has multiple different names. But these are basically tools that encompass 3 different areas. So the apps, these are the Microsoft examples: the Outlook, Teams, PowerPoint, and Word. This is kind of how you're going to be accessing the AI from day to day, and that's going to be using this ChatGPT in the background or something similar to GPT-4 to answer questions based on your specific information. So that's kind of what's missing now. When you use ChatGPT, you have to tell it every time about your audience, about who you are, about who your team is. But as things go on, these tools are going to start to know all of that and collect all that information in that graph. You can see here, this is an image that was put out by Microsoft that kind of shows what I'm talking about, where the user interface are going to be these apps that we're all used to. And that's going to be collecting information that is going to be stored in this Microsoft Graph, which is a lot like a database. It's called a vector embedded database that the AI tools can access. So as you go on, it's going to know all of this history about your communications with your various clients, about your audience for your marketing, and so forth. And it's the large language model here. This is the GPT-4 is going to, inside of Outlook, be able to access that, which will then look for your custom information in the Microsoft database. So I hope this is making sense, but this is kind of a peek under the hood of how these tools are going to work and how these big enterprise-wide, company-wide assistants are going to start to emerge through these 3 components. Again, those apps are going to be kind of how you're using it and interfacing with it. The large language model is basically going to be the reasoning engine. It's going to be kind of looking through all the information and serving up helpful ideas into your apps. And this Microsoft Graph is kind of like the long-term memory, the database that's storing all of this information about your different communications and different things you're creating in your apps there. So how can you start to think about adopting this? This transitioning into these is going to be 3 phases. There's going to be integrating and accessing these tools. So just starting to get them plugged in to what you're doing. You're going to be then starting to use them to aid in decision making, and then finally automating work processes, I think, are the 3 phases to using these tools. And once they're implemented, the process starts to build upon itself into this flywheel concept that I think was made famous by Jeff Bezos and was also covered in the book that came out a while ago called Crossing the Chasm. Typically, this flywheel concept was more for larger companies that had a lot of data, a lot of user data, and was kind of hard for, small businesses or entrepreneurs to adopt. That's all changing. Now with AI, you're going to be able to integrate this flywheel concept like never before. So what are some action items here that you can think about? What's the right system for you? Is it Microsoft Copilot or is it Google's alternative? I think a lot of people are going to be stuck because they like the Google apps, but the Microsoft Copilot, I think right now they have the more powerful AI with the GPT-4. So is that worth switching over to Microsoft? Is it worth kind of hanging with Google because that's where all of your documents are already? And then there's this potentially considering open source. So doing this kind of all on your own, there's going to be tools that will kind of allow you to create and own all of this information yourself, although that's going to be harder to set up. You're going to own that stuff. I think once you kind of commit to Microsoft, you start to have all of your information in their graph there. It's going to be very hard to leave that platform. So those are just some things to think about. What is the right system? How are you going to do, which one are you going to kind of decide? Because you'll kind of be probably with it for the long run. Then finding your data. What data does your company have already? Obviously, any databases of customer information, etc. But also thinking about non-traditional information, such as training materials, podcasts, blogs, just any sort of knowledge that you can grab that can be easily fed into these systems so that they start to really understand who you are, what you've created in the past, what has worked well, and what you can create more of in the future. So then your organization's flywheel. How can you use that data to help grow and acquire more data to help grow even more? It's the flywheel concept. So this again was mainly for the larger tech companies. Now it's being opened up to small businesses and entrepreneurs. Where's this going? Kind of further down into the crystal ball, further down the road. It's hard to say. This is one idea that I keep coming back to, is that these three roles, these deciders, this kind of C-suite level, the builders, these are kind of everybody else, the VPs, managers, etc., and the AI specialists. So the deciders, the C-suite, will be using AI tools to collect and analyze data, understand potential options in the changing landscape, and how to deploy their resources most effectively. So this means that AI could help in making strategic decisions, assessing competition, understanding customer behavior, and options for how they deploy resources. So I think that's going to be a major role for humans in the coming years. The builders, this is kind of the people that are carrying out the decisions. So this is the traditionally VPs or the managers. They're going to be taking those decisions and using AI tools to create things like marketing strategies, to develop software, to optimize all of the operations of the organization, and even help with back office activities, accounting, HR, those types of things. Then there's the AI specialist role, and this is going to be the folks kind of like myself that are studying AI on a daily basis and are going to be working with companies to make sure that they have the best practices, creating reusable prompts, developing custom plugins, and building these autonomous agents that can help with various levels of the organization. So those are kind of the three areas. What do we do with that information? What are the action steps? I think first, reevaluate. Everything's getting so shaken up right now. Now's a good time to kind of look at your personality and decide where you fit into this new paradigm. If you're currently, in the C-suite and maybe would rather another role or vice versa, now's a good time to make that change or think about that change. If you are in that C-suite role and you want to stay there, thinking about, what are your leading metrics now? If you could have any data, neatly summarized for you on a weekly basis so you can make decisions, what would that be? Another action step for this C-suite deciding, level is how do you make decisions and how can this process be optimized? I think this is a major use case that I don't see enough people talking about, the ability for AI to help C-suite folks make decisions. Now getting down a little further, these builders, thinking about what processes do you already have documented. I think a clearly defined process will be very easy to automate with AI in the very near future. So dusting off your process documentation could be a good action step there. And if you're in this AI specialist role, thinking about your information intake, build a funnel for how you're going to keep up with all the information about AI that's coming out. Experimentation, how are you going to test all of this and decide what's worth deploying and what's worth kind of implementing. And then I think the AI specialists fairly quickly are going to seek to specialize into certain areas. So I hope you got a lot out of this video. Again, there is a cheat sheet version of all of this and all of my videos in my Patreon, available there for just a few bucks. If you want to, grab this, share it with your team, have these action items handy for you to check them off your lists. There's also some text to code examples in there if that's something you're interested in those Google Collab documents. And I also do some one-on-one coaching. If there's anything you want to chat with me about, I'd love to hear what you're up to, see if there's some way I can help. Thanks a ton for watching. If you got something out of this, please feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment. That really helps as I'm trying to get this channel off the ground, and I will see you in the next video.